That's the thing. It's a crazy character that like you wouldn't think would fly because he's basically what he's almost like he's Prince, right? So he's like this flamboyant kind of dude, but he's able to back it all up. I'll back up the arrogance in the ring. It will never fly on the main roster, but I think it's amazing now, and he's played that character so well and has got it going so well that even if he loses, he still like comes out well. Like he doesn't a loss against someone like Ricochet or a loss against someone again like Aleister Black is it doesn't hurt him. It's just impressive that he's able to go against them and that he does, and everyone just actually they still respect him for it, which is a very hard thing to do, but it's awesome that he can do it.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Verbally Challenged. HarikenBx here, and here with a special guest tonight from the fellow Cool Table show, building up to it, Chicago. Paul, how you doing tonight, man? What's happening?
Doing well, man. Doing well, and I'm actually I'm very excited that you reached out because we get to talk some wrestling here, and I'm excited to do so because once we started the Rock and Wrestling group, I enjoyed being able to kind of be an educated Mark and kind of talk wrestling with some other like-minded people, and so I'm excited that we are actually going to be able to do this tonight. This is cool.
Yeah. I'm glad that group got started because I on Facebook, I'm not in a bunch of other groups. I mainly just keep it like in the realm of collectors because there's just too much going on. And then, with work and just daily life, it's hard to keep up in general. So like a smaller focused group like that with Rock members that could speak about wrestling, fellow wrestling fans, it's really, really cool. You get to kind of block out too much of the outside noise that you could get in some of those bigger groups. So
yeah, exactly. There's not all a tendency in those groups is to be everyone either are huge like WWE fans and like, oh, I love Roman, or there's those that, oh, screw Roman, fuck that guy, he sucks, get it off Roman. So it's usually always like ends up being anti-Roman or very pro-Roman, and like or just like it used to be with Cena, just that kind of thing. So it's nice to be able to talk about other things besides that, or even to be able to understand why things are going this way, even if you don't like it.
Yeah, that's it. So thanks for joining me tonight, man. It's awesome. It's also the first time we get to do a podcast today too, so that's great.
Yeah, definitely true. And being that you're on like every podcast in the Cool Table, you and Brink are like the staples in all of them. So I see you guys all the time, and I'm always like hearing you guys, and I'll be in the chat or something like that. But we rarely get to actually interact, just you and me, or anything like that at the same time. So this is cool.
Yeah, man, definitely. All right. Well, NXT Takeover Chicago took place tonight from the Allstate Arena in Chicago, Illinois, your hometown, right?
Yes, indeed. And I've been to the Allstate, and I've gotten to watch many a wrestling event or UFC event there. So it's a good venue for wrestling. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to this one. Would have been cool to go, but I didn't get a chance to. I do have some friends that are there though, so I'll reach out to them and see if I can maybe get some pictures of the event that I can share with the Rock and Wrestling group or something like that.
Oh, that'd be cool. I actually found out, just checking Facebook, that one of my friends is there too. I had no idea he was in Chicago, but he posted up a quick little story on Facebook from the crowd. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, I'm watching it now. And he was like, man, the crowd is alive. They're nuts. It's awesome. And I'm like, yeah, it's coming across really nice on the TV, really, really lively crowd there in Chicago. Is that how it usually is in your experience when you visit the arenas there?
Yes. Well, I think Chicago's a good wrestling town, and they appreciate just the spectacle and the entertainment of it. And again, I think they're more of a, it's weird to say it. It sounds braggy, but certainly I don't mean it to be but it's kind of a wrestling term, I guess. It's kind of just an educated Mark or just a knowledgeable fan, I guess, really. So they understand things, and they don't just take everything at face value. And there's not quite as much hate that you might get in some other cities and things like that. So when you get the novelty groups that have come out, or when you get the funnier matches, we enjoy it for what it is. We know it's not to be taken seriously. We know that James Ellsworth wasn't gonna win the championship or whatever, but we appreciate the heart that he puts into it, and we know that he's gonna put on a fun show, especially if he's against someone like AJ or something like that. So we know we appreciate it for what it is. We'll laugh at the spots we're supposed to laugh at. We'll cheer at the spots that are corny, but you're supposed to cheer at. So it makes it a really fun environment environment overall. And I really enjoy watching the live events, even though I don't get to do it as often as I would like.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very similar, I think, to New York City. Like,
For
again,
sure.
a
Yeah.
smart town, smart wrestling, and a hotbed for wrestling. Like here in the Northeast,
Yeah,
as
definitely.
it is, and for WWE especially. So same thing. When you go to like an arena like Madison Square Garden or the Barclays Center, you always get a nice lively crowd that goes and enjoys the shows. And then and then you got the little smaller venues like the Manhattan Center and the Hammerstein Ballroom, where you get that more passionate ECW type audience. Which you find in the bigger arenas here too. But since those spaces are a little bit smaller, it just comes across like so much more when you're actually in it. So
yeah, it's one of those that if you're gonna go in the Hammerstein Ballroom, like then you know, like you're paying a lot of money for not very many seats, so you're going there and you're gonna be there with people who really want to be there, which is cool, I think.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, if you ever get a chance to visit New York, I definitely would recommend if there was a wrestling show going on. Like me and Chris was able to go to the Ring of Honor show that was held
dude,
there recently.
that's
and
awesome.
Yeah, and it was good timing. He was just happened to be up here for that 5 Points Festival and was able to stay for that show. So
Did that end up being like a TV taping or anything like that, or was that just a house show?
yeah, it was a TV taping. So I
Awesome.
think they taped about like 3 episodes that night. So if
That's real cool.
if you catch Ring of Honor television, or I think they also have the clips on YouTube that you could probably check those out.
Yeah, I have to watch it that way because I don't get the channel, or the channel that used to have Ring of Honor TV no longer has it, at least by me. So I'm admittedly behind on my ROH stuff, but I get a lot of the people that I loved in ROH are now back in WWE. So I'm good with that.
There's actually a lot of ROH alumni were in the very first match for NXT Takeover tonight. The first match was the NXT Tag Team Championships were on the line. The Undisputed Era, Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly, along with the NXT North American Champion Adam Cole versus Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. So
Right,
what do you think of the matchup?
Well, I thought the matchup was cool. It was a good matchup, but right off the bat, who did you think was going to win this one? Who were you predicting?
Oh yeah, well when we were in the chat earlier and you threw out your predictions, I pretty much agreed with you except for the Gargano and Ciampa match, and you were correct in your your prediction there. So you batted 100. Yeah, I was for the Undisputed Era just because I feel just behind the scenes and what you see on screen, they have such like a great presence together. Like they're all veterans. Basically coming up through the independent circuit, and I think as a unit they're just a very entertaining tandem on television. So I felt it was a smart move to keep the tag team championships on them and to keep their push rolling here.
Yeah, I absolutely thought, even though I dig Danny Burch and Oni Lorcan, I think the two bald hairless bastards basically like those guys. It's just I think they're both from the UK, right? They're both English, aren't they? I
think Burch is from England, but I think Oni Lorcan's from here.
Oh, okay. But
Yeah.
but they have a very similar style, and it's kind of that whole UK style of wrestling where it's like they don't mess around. They're the big bruisers and that kind of thing. So they mesh well, and I think just the difference in style there went very well against Undisputed Era to make an entertaining match. And this was actually probably my favorite match of the night, even though I enjoyed all the other matches as well. This is probably my favorite one because this is the style that I really enjoy watching, with a lot of action, a lot of fast action and fast pace. Nothing really just like superfluous. Everything was an awesome spot for the most part, or everything was leading up to a good spot. So I thought the four of them put on a really cool match, and it was very entertaining, and I liked it. But I thought for sure there was no way that Sullivan and Lorcan were gonna win, just because they're somewhat of a new team together, even though they themselves are also established like the others. But I think NXT is really pushing Undisputed Era as being like the top stable, and to really go. And I think they didn't want to pull the titles out of them. They want to keep all three of them as title holders for now, I think.
I definitely agree with you. And again, like all four of these guys in the match, like their styles mesh well together. Very hard hitting, very technical. Like you said, Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch, they have like a ground and pound based style, no nonsense, no gimmicks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I like it. And the fans in NXT respect them for that hard in-ring work ethic. And I do too. You know what I'm saying? Like I love that type of style. And they gave these guys plenty of time to work out a match, which is good because then they have enough time to tell a proper story. And it doesn't have to feel rushed. And you could actually build the match up where you could draw the rest of the crowd into it. And that's definitely like what we got here. Like the crowd was definitely going nuts.
There's a good story that was kind of told through the in-ring action, which is what you really want in a good wrestling match, right? That you kind of need that to make it more than just awesome spots, to actually make it a good match and good sports entertainment. And these guys are, like you said, they all have a ton of experience, so they've been doing this for a long time. And I think it really showed in this kind of a matchup here. I think they did a really good job with that.
So the crowd was really into the Undisputed Era. I noticed during their entrance when they came out, they showed some respect for the other tag team, but I think the Undisputed Era were the definite favorites here. And then during the match, Lorcan and Burch got in a ton of offense. Like they kind of controlled, I would say, like the first half of the match.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was good to see, you know what I'm saying? Just to kind of, again, these guys are probably superstars that maybe a lot of people are not too familiar with if you're not watching the weekly NXT product. So, a good eye opener for those fans that might be new to seeing Burch and Lorcan. I did notice the crowd booed Burch when he tagged in and started getting in some offense. So again, their favoritism towards the Undisputed Era. But lots of good offense from Burch and Lorcan, and a couple of sick bumps I want to point out. Lorcan got pushed off the top rope in a spot, dude. And he took a bump on the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the fucking ring.
I was gonna ask you, as one who actually has competed in the squared circle, I guess, or in the ring, like that is that as brutal as that looks? Like that looked like damn.
It sucks. That sucks. Like I said, it's the hardest part of the ring because there's no give on the ring apron. On the edges of the ring, there's no give at all. So when you take a bump on that part of the ring, you feel it. You definitely feel it.
Yeah, that was a hell of a spot. And the thing is, like, as a lot of the indie guys have gone through NXT and have come up to the main roster, there have been a lot more moves that were performed up against the ring apron. Now I've seen it's kind of a trend that's coming out. I'm just like, that sucks for them. Yeah. And this one here, I was like, holy shit, that's no joke. Like, you can't, like, that he landed square like on the back of his shoulders, and I felt real bad for him.
That's a rough bump. And then not too long after that, he did a double blockbuster to the Undisputed Era on the outside to the floor. Yeah. So again, taking a flat back bump. Yeah, even though it's padded, you know what I'm saying, but that still hurts taking that on the outside like that,
That's always one of the blockbuster itself has always been a funny move to me because it's basically a self-imposed suplex, right? But but when you do it right, it still looks awesome. Like I'll give Seth Rollins all the credit in the world. His blockbuster looks great, and I think that this kind of double blockbuster that he did here was really good spot. Unfortunately, he just crashed onto the floor, but that's what he was supposed to do, and good on him, man. No fear for that guy. He just went balls out and just did it.
Yeah, so it was good. It was good. They looked like they were almost about to claim the victory, and then Adam Cole pulled Roderick Strong out of the ring before the ref could count to 3. So the fans were fine with that, but they weren't fine when the ref threw Adam Cole out and they started chanting bullshit, which is funny. That always makes me laugh.
Yeah.
They were able to isolate, I think, only Lorcan and hit a double team move to retain the tag team title. So that was a pretty fucking awesome opener.
Yeah, that was a great way to open the pay-per-view, and I really do like the Undisputed Era. Just I like them all in Ring of Honor. I really liked Roderick Strong back when he was way back in Generation Next in Ring of Honor, and then I liked him when he was in TNA and the X Division stuff. And I wasn't really sure how he was gonna get over now that he's back in WWE, now that he's in NXT. Because I mean, he's a tiny dude, and I was worried that they would just throw him into a 5 Live and then he would just kind of just wilt out there. Yeah, but and that, and the, like, I love the whole Messiah of the backbreaker thing, like that he could pull a backbreaker out of anything, but backbreaker is not a huge move in the main roster, and so that like neutered him. It would have neutered his moveset. So I think putting him in with the other Ring of Honor dudes and making a faction or a stable out of him, it was brilliant. And Kyle O'Reilly is just awesome. Like it's for him, I love his technical strikes, but it's all the little things that he does, like the
playing with the guitar, with the belt, and stuff like
all
that.
Those little things make him so much more of a personality and the fact that he can back it all up, I think that's aces. It's again, to compare him to like your Kevin Owens. It's not so much just the moves, because the moves are great, but it's the little intangibles that you just got to get that make you a great wrestler, and he's definitely got that.
I definitely agree. And I had similar views on Roderick Strong as well. Like, always loved him as a wrestler, coming up through ROH and TNA. You know, I followed his career for a long time. And it was true, when he got here, you did wonder how he would fit in. And he did seem like a little vanilla, and they didn't really know what to do with him. They tried to give him a little push, and they had the storyline where the Undisputed Era was trying to recruit him, and he, you know, turned them down. And you actually, the way you just mentioned, like how he they might have sent him to 205 Live and flounder there. You know, he did take part in their cruiserweight tournament that wrapped up at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
You know, so that could have been in his future, but them turning him heel, and now he's showing just a lot more of the personality and throwing him in with these guys like him that came through Ring of Honor. You could tell they have chemistry together, that they're buddies, and that they're having a good time. And with Adam Cole, like, especially, like, that dude is one to watch. You know, he's another one that he just cuts a good promo, and I feel like he doesn't come across as scripted when you hear him on the microphone, which is a great quality to have.
Yeah, dude, that dude he's clearly they're grooming him, but he can fill the shoes of being the next HBK. Like that guy, he's exactly what WWE wants in their superstar to push. He's not the biggest dude, but he's exactly what they want for that. So he is exactly the new HBK, and he could totally run with it, and he could totally pull it off.
Exactly. So good on those guys. Can't wait to see more from them. The second match of the night was Ricochet versus the Velveteen Dream, and this whole feud was basically based off one-upmanship. The Velveteen Dream, I think, leading up to the match, was basically saying that anything Ricochet could do, he could do better. But this match kind of proved that. It was actually pretty good. Both of these guys really, really good in ring. They also were given time to tell a good story and a good match, and Velveteen Dream surprised me here. What did you think?
Well, I'm a big fan of both. And actually, before we even do that, what are your thoughts on the two of them as wrestlers? Like, not necessarily against each other, but just in general. Because for me, like, I have a very specific, there's a specific type of wrestling that I love, and we've talked about it in some of the groups, but my jam was like the X Division stuff and cruiserweight stuff and all that. I love the high flying, fast action stuff. So you get someone like Ricochet. Ricochet is amazing, and I love Ricochet. And like his stuff against Will Ospreay is probably like the perfect matches for me to watch. It's just spot after spot after spot. Even though I enjoy like all this, the Kenny Omega New Japan stuff has all been amazing, but very different style than that. And so if I would just want something to just throw on TV and just watch, that's what I love. All the dive, like the Randy Orton, like kind of stuff. So I love Ricochet already. And Velveteen Dream, man, that dude impresses me every time I see him, because he doesn't look like he'd be as good as he is, and the dude's only like 23 or something like that.
Yeah, 22 years old. Yeah, he's young, so young.
And like, I'm strangely proud of him, because like I saw him in that season of Tough Enough, and he got cut early, but and I thought like he talked about how good he was, and I was like, okay, but then he got cut, and then he lost to like, once the fan vote started coming in, and they vote up ZZ and all those people in that season, and I'm strangely proud to see him doing so well in NXT that like this, every time I see him in a match against someone who's great, so against Aleister Black, against Ricochet here, just the fact that they're in a match together, I love. But then to see when he does well, I'm always nervous, like, is he gonna do well? Please do well. And to see that he always does, I love it.
Yeah, but like you said, he improves every time he goes out there, and for being so young, like he seems like he's just years ahead of where he should be at that age.
Crazy.
Yeah, and not only like in the in-ring aspect, just with the whole Velveteen Dream character as well. Like, he just gets it, you know, because that's a character that, you know, maybe if that was suggested to him or thrown on any other person, how would they run with it or take it? He's taking the gimmick, running with it all the way. The gimmick is over, and then he's backing it up like in the ring.
That's the thing. It's a crazy character that like you wouldn't think would fly, because he's basically what he's almost like he's Prince, right? So he's like this flamboyant kind of dude, but he's able to back it all up bluff. I'll back up the arrogance in the ring. It will never fly on the main roster, but I think it's amazing now. And he's played that character so well and has got it going so well that even if he loses, he still like comes out well. Like he doesn't, a loss against someone like Ricochet or a loss against someone again like Aleister Black it doesn't hurt him. It's just impressive that he's able to go against them and that he does, and everyone just actually they still respect him for it, which is a very hard thing to do, but it's awesome that he can do it.
Yeah, it's a testament basically just to having the character over, and again, like the people in NXT, the fans there at Full Sail where they usually do their tapings, you know, they respect the in-ring aspect, you know, so much. So, and he's got both. He's got the in-ring and he's got the character. So I think he's basically the total package. And to have that again, so young, 22 years old, I mean, he's got years and years and years ahead of him. He's only going up.
Yeah, that dude can be a superstar, but like I'm worried that so Adam Rose was huge and he had his whatever gimmick, and then they brought it over the exact same gimmick to the main roster, floundered and failed, and then now No Way Jose was huge and they brought him over there, still the same gimmick and the same Adam Rose gimmick basically. And we'll see where they go with him. Hopefully they can do it right, but I don't know if they will. But this is one I'm sure that won't go, that gimmick won't fly on the main roster for Velveteen Dream, and I'm hoping they work with him because that dude can go. Like if they fail with him, I'll be really pissed.
Yeah, you don't think that gimmick will be good for the main roster for either Raw or SmackDown?
Unfortunately, I don't. SmackDown more than Raw, it could go, but I don't think it has enough. I think to the normal, like the kid marks and then the people, like I don't think it'll fly with them. I don't think they'll get it. I think they just won't like him. And if they make him out as a heel, I guess it could be like who are the other like known arrogant? I guess like the narcissist, like Lex Luger, like back in the day, like when he was the narcissist still. I loved him. That's when I first loved him. So I guess it could, but I don't. For some reason, I don't think that will fly. Unfortunately, because I think he's so good at that character that like it's almost a shame that that he will likely have to lose it, at least in my opinion. I would love it if he didn't, but I have a feeling it won't go.
All right. It'd be interesting to see for sure, though. Like I think he does have a good chance to be successful, even though it is kind of hard to gauge because you can't always tell what person's success in NXT and the crowd reaction that they get there. It doesn't, like we just discussed, it doesn't always translate to the main roster.
Yeah, that could be a whole other discussion too. Is like people who are huge in NXT, they get the call up and then they suck here, and why? They suck in the main roster and why, or who is being underutilized, or who are you most upset about them being so underutilized or whatever. Like there's so many people that I could go into, like Perfect 10. I can't think of his name.
Ty Dillinger.
Ty Dillinger. It's great, but he unfortunately isn't doing much on the main roster. And Uhaa Nation,
Apollo Crews
is amazing, an amazing wrestler. Yet like I feel bad for him because he's great every time in the ring, but he loses, and that's one of those where he always loses to put over someone else, even with Titus O'Neil. And I think Titus is great too. They always lose, but unfortunately for them, it moves them down in everyone's esteem. Unlike Velveteen Dream, who he can lose and still be awesome, and it's amazing that he can.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'll be interested to see how he does. I think, you know, and maybe we should kind of table it for another discussion because I think that's it's a whole discussion. Yeah, no, it's gonna. Yeah, that's a whole other discussion in its own. I think when it comes to that, I think it's up to the writers and whoever's in charge behind the scenes to make sure that they're putting the spotlight and a proper story like around these guys to give them the spotlight. Like you can't just put them in a match with a guy and put them out there and then just be like, okay, let's see how this goes. They have the ability to write the television. They control the push. I feel like a character like that, like with his charisma and everything, like he can get over. They just need to make sure that they focus on writing good storylines for him instead of doing lazy writing, which just seems like that's what we get most of the time on the main roster.
Which is unfortunate, but yeah, fingers crossed they give him something good, a good character that he can work with, or if they even let him work with Velveteen Dream, that would be the ideal because he's great at this character.
Yeah, he controlled a lot of this matchup with Ricochet tonight, and again, he surprised me because he was actually pulling off some of Ricochet's signature moves, and it looked pretty flawless and spotless. So again, seeing his improvement with all his matches, but again, this match with Ricochet was even more of like an eye opener for me to see him pulling off Ricochet's a little bit more of his high risk offense, and it looked pretty flawless. So what did you think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like that. Like again, I go back to his match with Aleister Black. They have a more similar style than him against Ricochet, and it's kind of a matchup that you would see working a little bit more. But then to see him now being able to go toe to toe with Ricochet's style of high flying, like or high risk, like I never would have expected a dude as big as Velveteen Dream to be able to do it. But
exactly.
But yeah, he was able to do it, and like you said, he really is improving each time because he still misses some spots here and there, and more so back in the day than he is now. So he's getting better each time, and the kid can adapt, man. I'm so surprised, and again, I'm strangely proud that he's doing well, only because I watched that season of Tough Enough. Like really, there's no reason that I should feel proud, but I do.
Yeah.
It's like good for him, man.
And it's funny because it always seems like if you've watched the older Tough Enoughs before, besides a couple of people that won that kind of had okay careers, it always seems like the runners up and the people that were eliminated wind up having better careers than the people that actually win the competition on those shows.
Especially like for if it comes down to like a fan vote, especially then is when it's the real talent will come up and they'll do their own thing. Because there's so many people from that season that have now on the main roster or at least signed with WWE and doing well, and none of them are the winners. Like you're just saying, it's all the other ones that got kicked out early, and then all of the winners, even the runners up, are all gone. I think.
Seriously. So what do you think of the Dream's Hulk Hogan inspired outfit tonight? I thought that was pretty cool.
I did too, and I dig it, and I like those kinds of things. And even like when Jay Lethal was in now I can't think of it, Black Machismo, when he was doing Randy Savage, and when he did all of his Ric Flair imitations and all that. I love those kind of callbacks and those throwbacks when they're done well. Like if you play it serious, it comes off awesome. Like if you know it's a joke and you try to play it goofy, like oh ha 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 guys, like but it comes off as stupid. When you go at 100%, it actually you tend to pull it off better, and I think that's what happened here. I loved it.
Yeah, it was cool. So these guys had a good back and forth match. The Dream controlled a lot of it. Ricochet, of course, getting the babyface comeback, which is good. He got in some of his high flying offense, and like I said, it was impressive to see Velveteen Dream pulling off a lot of Ricochet's high flying, and it ended up with Ricochet being able to hit the 630.
That's a hell of a move, isn't it?
Yeah,
think that's incredible. Let him do that on the main roster?
I didn't think that they would. I think they might use a move like that and save it for like these special, like kind of like takeover events, but not every show, every match.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see them being nervous as hell for him to try to do that move because just one botch and he could really be done, I suppose.
High risk of injury, and I'm sure they trust him, and he's been doing this for years. They say he has incredible control of his body, and you could see it. Just in his
for
matches.
sure, that dude is incredible. Like he's so athletic.
Yeah, but still scary. Like, and that shooting star press, did you see him like so far across the ring?
Yeah,
that was like,
wow. And onto the knees, right? Like it was like that again. Like you said, that dude has perfect control of his body. Like he was able to take a shooting star press, knees to the face, like it's like just to the chin, even. Like, but he was able to pull it off well. Like he controlled his body well enough that obviously he didn't hurt himself doing it. I can't even imagine how you can get it just right where you kind of slightly go further with the rotations, that you can still kind of brace yourself. Like it's crazy to think that he was able to do it so well.
Good match, man.
It was a great match, and it really showed off both of the competitors. And as you would expect, Ricochet started to take over and had he had like the second half of the match, and things started to pick up and was able to show off all his moves there. And yeah, I think we figured he was going to be the winner just because, again, it doesn't matter really if Velveteen Dream loses. He still is able to come off well, but they're really they got to push Ricochet because he was like a huge signing, and everyone, while he's still hot, man, they're going to push him as far as he can go.
For sure. And I don't think this loss hurts the Velveteen Dream at all. Like, again, just based off his performance, he almost comes through looking like a winner here. So
yeah, dude, he did a hell of a job. Good on him, man.
Yep. It was good stuff. All right. The third match of the night was for the NXT Women's Championship. Shayna Baszler versus Nikki Cross. Storyline here was built up to be Shayna Baszler being like the bully of the NXT Women's division. Other women in the division seemed scared to fight her, and based off her, bullying tactics like in the ring. But Nikki Cross from Sanity looks like she stepped up, and she's portrayed as a crazy type of character and showing no fear. So probably the perfect opponent for Shayna Baszler. What do you think of the match?
I think the matchup is a good one, and this is really the only way they could do it because they've in order to push Shayna Baszler, they had her going up against Dakota Kai recently, right? And
Yeah.
so I don't know, either fortunately or unfortunately for Dakota Kai, they made her into the new Bailey, and so
She reminds me that now that you said that, she does kind of have that look. Now that
yeah,
you
she totally does, and they have basically Shayna Baszler, like you said, kind of bullying her through, and that's how they have her kind of that's how they're giving her push as a heel champ, and then you need to have someone crazy, and I think it works particularly well because Shayna Baszler is another she's an MMA fighter, right? So she's no as they tend to do the WWE tends to do with their MMA fighters. They make them no nonsense, all about the strikes. I'll kick your ass. So it's the same with Brock, same with her, same with Ruby Riott, and all that kind of stuff. Like when you have the fighter, all they do they're all about the strikes and they're all about no nonsense. And then when you need to pair that up with some crazy in order to make it work. And I
Yeah.
think so. As I think the matchup really was a good matchup, and I think that speaks well of Nikki Cross really to be able to kind of make this a fun and entertaining match.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like just all the mannerisms and the craziness, like just the way the match started with her basically inviting Shayna to just hit her, and I think Shayna did, and she was just smiling and happy and was telling her to give her more. You know, like you don't have anybody else in the WWE as far as the women with that type of character that we got here with like Nikki Cross. So good back and forth match. She's got plenty of experience, and again, good on Shayna for being somewhat new to the sport, but coming across as someone who has like great in-ring presence, being able to control the match, not looking like she's rushing or looking like she's green. She looks like a pretty, seasoned competitor in there, and they gave her the win, submission maneuver, but Nikki did not tap out. She just passed out with a smile on her face, which is awesome. So funny.
I think again this is another one of those where it's Nikki Cross lost, but it didn't because it was kind of all in character and she didn't give up or anything like that. She still comes out well with this loss. It was kind of an interesting kind of rumor that I've heard floated around. It was that like if Nikki Cross lost today, then do you think she's gonna get the call up to the main roster now and join Sanity when Sanity makes their debut, like the real debut on the main roster?
Yeah,
I think that's actually an interesting point. It could work, and I think is that the first kind of mixed stable or mixed faction that they have on the main roster now. Like I don't know if they have any others.
I think so. Like I don't recall any others like that. With the Sanity members and then Nikki Cross. Like like the last 3-man crew. Besides the Shield and like the Wyatt family and what is it, the New Day. None of them had a female like attached to them. So I guess maybe Titus Worldwide, but that's just an Apollo Crews, right? So it's not a 3-man stable like the way Sanity is.
Yeah, I don't think you count what's her name. I can't think of her name now.
Dana Brooke.
Yeah, I don't think you can really count her because she in that role she's their statistician or whatever. She doesn't actually wrestle with them.
She's not wrestling. Yeah, it's not the same. Yeah, not the same type of role. So
yeah, but I'd like to see I like Sanity as a whole, even though typically I'm not crazy. Oh, I'm not crazy. I don't like the whole I'm crazy gimmick as much when it's the whole screaming kind of maniacal laugh crazy. I'm fine with Woken Matt, that kind of thing. I'm fine with kind of just the deep brewing craziness, like when you think they're just straight up crazy, as opposed to the kind of funhouse crazy. But I like Sanity as a whole, so I would like to see her with them again, and I think they could do some interesting stuff, and it might shake some things up on the main roster where it looks like they're starting to get the push for the factions again, and I think that it would actually go over well to have some factions again, and I think it would be cool, and so I'd be down with that if they were to go that direction.
It'd be a shakeup for sure, like for her to debut with them on SmackDown because she could do her thing in the women's division, and and then they could get their push as a 3-man squad on SmackDown. Like I feel like they should kind of, like you said, push the stables and push like the tag team division and aspect like a little bit more. Like back in the early 2000s, late 1990s, early 2000s, they had a real deep tag team roster and a ton of great tag team matches. I feel feel like they could do that again if they just kind of focus on those divisions.
Yeah, I think they could. There's a lot of talented teams, and I think they're not getting. I don't remember who's on what now since the most recent shakeup. So I don't remember who is where completely down the line. But there are a lot of talented tag teams that I think there's a lot of focus on just a few of them, and I think they could really do well to just deepen the tag team division because there are a lot of good ones on the main roster that unfortunately like the most underutilized. Well, the club is pretty underutilized at this point. And yeah, like so there's a lot of teams like that were great and have a lot of international experience that just are not doing as well now. Like the Revival, they're not doing too well. Granted, there's a lot of injuries that keep happening.
That's what derailed them. Yeah, their first year on the main roster, they just didn't have any luck with injuries, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And now it seems like they're not focused on pushing them since the more recent superstar shakeup. So
yeah, unfortunately, but I'd like to see them. They can really bring a lot of kind of glory back to the tag division if they really focus on the tag teams.
I agree. And then with Raw being 3 hours, I feel like that would be the ideal show to give the tag teams some focus, because with SmackDown, that's the tough thing about SmackDown. Like you got 2 hours and it doesn't seem like they're able to utilize their roster to the best of their ability. Like you could go weeks without seeing certain superstars, and that kind of sucks because then you can't really give these guys a decent push. You kind of debut them and then sometimes they get forgotten about for weeks at a time, like that's kind of like what happened with Ty Dillinger, as we were mentioning earlier. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, all right. The next matchup on the card was for the NXT Championship. Aleister Black, the champion, against Lars Sullivan. Storyline here was that, of course, you could see the difference in size between the two men. Lars Sullivan being a big beast of a man. It looked like Aleister Black wasn't going to be able to hit his black mask on Lars Sullivan just due to his size and strength. So that's what he had to overcome here. And again, with a match like this, big guy versus small guy, Lars Sullivan being somewhat new, like, I'm saying, I'm not really familiar with him, and I don't think he had much of a career on the independent circuit. So again, I haven't seen too much of him, just a little bit of what I've seen on NXT TV, but he really impressed me here. He looked like he belonged and that he was able to hold his own with a more seasoned veteran like Aleister Black. And I enjoyed the matchup. Not my favorite match on the card, but I thought they did a solid job here. What do you think?
I was impressed actually with Lars also, and I think there was no question. I don't think anybody thought that Lars was actually going to win, but he did a really good job in the match. Way better than I thought for a dude of that size. Like he looks like he's like the prototype or the stereotype wrestler from like back in the 80s, like the big, because he is a big, solid mass of a man. And to have him go up against kind of your more current body style for a pro wrestler, much faster, much more agile. And I didn't think that that he was going to be able to hold his own, but damned if that guy didn't hold his own. I was very impressed at how well he was able to do in this matchup. And what I liked about this, kind of like they did have you watched like all of the Kenny Omega stuff from New Japan, like recently, the big 5, 6-star, 7-star matches that he's had?
I saw the first 2 matches with Okada, but I haven't kept up after that. So I didn't watch the match with Cody and these last couple of matches I think that he had with Okada.
Okay, but one of the things that I liked, and I think it actually was with the Okada matches, I believe it was those. The whole thing was all like, yeah, they were having a great match, but just if only he could hit if only Omega could hit the one-winged angel, then it would be done. But he could never actually pull off the move because he just never was able to get it, and so that's why he was never able to win. And I kind of like that storyline angle for this, is that like he's gonna try. Aleister Black he keeps trying to do the black mass, but someone like Lars Sullivan who's just able to block it. He's not able to hit his finishing move. There's no way that's how they made him seem like a legitimate threat to Aleister Black. And I kind of like that because we see a lot now, I guess, as kind of jaded wrestling fans, where people kick out of finishers all the time. And it used to be a pay-per-view thing, and now you see it on Raw and you see it on SmackDown, usually in the main events, but you still see it a lot more frequently. And so I kind of like that almost throwback to like, oh, if he's gonna hit that finisher, it's over, and like it could in theory end right away, but as long as he's not able to do it, if you can block that finisher, you still got a chance. And I kind of like that throwback angle of it all.
I agree. Like finishers definitely nowadays are not protected, and it almost feels weird, except when it's on Raw or SmackDown. But on these pay-per-views, like you said, like you get so used to seeing the false finish that it's almost weird if you see somebody lose to just one finisher, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not good that they got you used to that type of style, because selling is a big part of the act, you know.
Yeah.
And when you see, especially in the match we'll be talking about next, the main event, there was so many high impact moves that when logically, when you see somebody get hit with a move like that, it should be over. It should end. And when you see them kick out, it's like, okay, like, you know, you could get drawn in and be excited and be like, man, this is awesome. But then you could be like, damn, they're kind of almost killing it in a way, because there's no way they should be kicking out of stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, and I think that is, I mean, I guess kudos to NXT for letting Aleister Black use the Black Mass as his finisher, because that is one of those that, like, if you could plow someone in the face with a spin kick like that, it should legitimately knock him out.
Done. Yeah.
And that's not the type of move that you see as a finisher in WWE. So I like that they actually did that, and they're letting him use that. And good on him for just about 100% of the time hitting that move exactly right, where it's the exact right part of the foot hits him in the exact right way in the face, that it's exactly how it should be. It's not like he overshoots it, or like the opponent is too close so he hits him with his calf, or he could potentially miss it and it'll whiff, but your Jinder Mahal will still try to sell it even if he misses, or something like that. Like he 99% of the time hits that thing flush. I don't know how, but he does, and makes it look good. And in this one, like, there was that kind of it wasn't really a false finish, but like I saw him hit it and it didn't hit flush. I was like, oh man, he didn't do it, but he
botched. Yeah.
But then it was like, then they didn't just sell it. Like, they actually kept the match going. It kicked out and kept going because, like, quote unquote, he didn't hit it flush. He didn't hit it all the way, and they kept it going a little further. And good on him, man. And then he was able to, he like did it, I think, to like, was Lars Sullivan on his knees or something like that. Yeah. He was like lower, so he was able to hit it better that way. But again, like, that's, I guess you're afforded that with a move like that as your finisher. So it doesn't involve a lot of setup. He can just whip it out and just do it, so to speak. And it worked out well in this case for the story and for the credibility of the move and for the credibility of Lars Sullivan. Good on him for not just taking a dive after that kind of slightly botched move at the end. Like, they did the right thing for the story, and I think it worked out well.
Exactly, because it would have looked so bad if they would have ended it like that, because you could tell, like, he definitely didn't hit him flush, you know what I'm saying? Like, the way, like you said, he usually hits people like right on with that move.
And just speaking of like craziness, like, how crazy was the diving headbutt, like, but still hit it, like Aleister Black put his knees up. Like, that's nuts, man.
Yeah.
Like, to even be like willing to do that, like to do a diving headbutt on someone's knees, that's nuts.
For real, and for a big guy like that as well. Yeah. You know,
I'm surprised they're letting him do it, but again, it's NXT, it's not main roster stuff. So I guess Triple H's like, all right, that's fine, go ahead, man.
And it's cool because him being like the big guy, like, we could almost say it's the typical big guy monster character, but he's in his promos and stuff backstage. You know, we didn't really see it here. He's displayed as like very intelligent, like the character, like he's an intelligent monster.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of like that, and I think Lars Sullivan is definitely somebody that has an upside too. Again, because just knowing that he's not one of these seasoned veterans, but he did a great job here, and in a almost like not quite the main event, but it was the title match. It was for the NXT title, and he did look like he belonged in the match. So he's definitely got some upside, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing a bit more from this guy.
And get another one of those that, like, him, Cassius Ohno, or I don't know if you watch Michael Elgin or whatever, like there's these big dudes that can do so much more than you would think that they would be able to do. Kevin Owens, another one. Like, I'm always so impressed that they can do the stuff that they do. Good on them.
Yep. All right. And then the main event for the second takeover in a row, they did it at the last one for NXT Takeover New Orleans. They did the same thing here. Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa in a street fight. Impressive again, and I think it just speaks to the magnitude of the feud between these guys, how it's been built up, the kind of heat that Ciampa gets from the crowd, the reaction and the following that Gargano gets from the audience, it's quite a recipe for success. And I think they pulled off another great main event here, even though the stipulation is not always a favorite because, you know, you get out of the ring a lot. And again, I'm a fan of technical wrestling and stuff like that, which these guys are both great at. But these guys pulled off a hell of a street fight here. And I'm not sure if it was as good as their match at TakeOver New Orleans, because that match was just incredible. But this was a very close second.
Yeah, it's like these are two of my favorite wrestlers currently wrestling. Like it was the Cruiserweight Classic is what really introduced me to them because they were incredible. Their match against each other was amazing.
Oh my God, yes.
And then so I started watching. Then that actually got me into watching NXT more regularly. Was literally those two, and they were great as DIY and all that kind of stuff. And so I think what made this match so good, like you were saying, is the feud that they've built up. Like when Ciampa turned on him, I guess it was a year ago. At Takeover Chicago last time. Like my jaw dropped. I felt like they have that, like it's that one dude that they always show in the audience when Undertaker first lost at WrestleMania. Like it's that dude. I felt like that guy. I was like, whoa, because like I couldn't believe it, and it was. Again, this whole feud has been masterfully done. Like with the injuries, somehow have made it like stew. Even for it didn't kill the feud. It just made it stew and fester longer.
I agree.
And it's been great. Like and that's what made this actually such a good match. Even though, like you said, this is not the match I would have wanted to see those two in. Like I prefer the technical wrestling because they're, like you said, they're both awesome at it. But there was so much emotion in this, and it's just because of how everything that led up to it that it was very kind of almost cathartic, and it was good to see them really go. And you and I had talked earlier before we started recording. I think I was a big ECW mark, so it really felt like a good ECW match, and there was the ECW chant that came out in the audience and all that kind of stuff, and everything about it was like, even the stop sign inside, like the poster board thing, like all that stuff was straight up ECW cheese. But I loved it. Like it was such a wonderful throwback to it. It suited the feud, the rivalry well at this stage. It's kind of one of those you needed it to be dark and brutal and heavy. Kind of it's like I don't know, like assuming, like I assumed this was going to be like a trilogy of matches. So they're going to have the rubber match like next. I don't know when they're going to do it, but that they were going to have that. And so if you're going to do it, you end it like real dark. It's kind of, it's like your Empire Strikes Back or whatever. Yeah. Like you get it in there, and the bad guy wins, the heel wins in this case. I actually wasn't sure how it was going to go up until like, oh, the ref's not even in the ring anymore. Like then I'm like, oh, so that's how they're gonna do it. He's really gonna win multiple times, where the face wins, but no refs. And then ultimately at the end, that explains why he was pulling up the mat and all that kind of stuff. It ended as well as you could have done it without making either of them look weak. Really, I guess, like, because Gargano just started like just kicking the shit out of him at the end.
Yeah. And those super kicks was just incredible.
Yeah, it was strangely satisfying. Even though of the two of them, I think Ciampa is probably my favorite of the two of them, and that's mostly because of Project Ciampa, which I think is one of the greatest finishers being performed at the moment. I love that move. Yeah, and so it's really just only based on that I like him slightly more than Gargano, because I love Gargano. Yeah. I love Johnny Wrestling, but like it was one of those that you just got the shit wailed out of him with all those super kicks, and then at the end he just won because it just kind of fell into place. He laid that groundwork earlier, and it worked out in his favor timing wise. Yeah, and it was just one of those that like the whole match, it was just again very reminiscent of ECW. Like back in the day, it was like your RVD Jerry Lynn like out in the crowd the whole time. Like the two of them can go in the ring, but they just did it all outside the ring, and there was one of those that it was just in the people and that kind of thing. So it was cool to see.
Yeah, they told a great story, and just brutal, like the match, like the way these guys like lay into each other. You know, again, it's a work, but these guys make it look solid and snug. Like they're definitely just drawing you into what they're doing.
Ciampa got whipped in the face with a belt. Like I was like, damn, that's in your face.
Yeah, he took it. He took a few of those belt shots. He took a lot, and then him pulling up the mat. He was like, okay, where they're going. They didn't take the big bump, and it was nice to see them kind of come around to that that for the finish. And
Yeah.
again, you do see Johnny Wrestling get screwed. So again, it just factors into how the crowd feels and how they're so sympathetic for that character.
Yeah, like
He almost won twice, and it's like, where's the ref? And it's like, oh, he got screwed coming back into the ring. Ciampa able to hit him with the DDT on the bare wood inside the ring and get the 1, 2, 3. And you could even see the ref, like just the drama of it. Like he didn't want to count. He's like, what are you doing? But of course he had to count, and down went Johnny Wrestling.
Yeah, like that guy is like like a perfect underdog character. Like you can't help but root for him. And I have a feeling that that's what they were trying to do with like Bailey on the main roster, to like to have her like be kind of after her initial push, like the have just be like the perpetual underdog to root for. But it just doesn't work with her. I don't know what the difference is, but like it does not work at all. I can't. I'm starting to really. She's starting to really bug me, even though I used to like Bailey. But for someone like for Johnny Wrestling, man, like he is. I don't know what it is, but it's like one of the things that I like about him. Like after one of his long matches, or after a good match, like he looks like he's been through hell. Like his hair is always a mess, and he's sweaty as hell, and all that kind of stuff. And it goes well with the character, and that he is just working his ass off to pull off his wins. And I think that is another reason why he's just everyone loves him.
Yep.
Is because like he's an amazing underdog, even though he's so good. Like he can pull that off really well.
Yeah, he just draws you in with the performance, you know, like and even, you know, like after he took the DDT and he lost the match here, like you see, you know, his hand shaking, you know what I'm saying, him selling like the move and stuff. Like it's just so good, you know, like it's so good. And then, you know, having the wife come in and he had like just a certain look in his eyes, like he's just so good at like what he does. And I'm happy to see these guys be in the position they're in, because I remember when they first came into NXT, it's kind of like extras, and they just kind of threw them together as a tag team. You know, you get to see like, oh, these guys are good, but they weren't getting like a serious push. And then you just see the crowd get behind them over time. And now they've told this amazing story. Like we said, the injury didn't hinder it. It probably helped it more than it hurt, just because you had the chance to tell this underdog story with Gargano on his own, trying to overcome the odds to work his way towards the NXT championship, and then coming so close and failing, and then getting that one last shot and building himself back up to get there, and then Ciampa coming back and taking it all away from him. So I mean, it's just incredible what they've done.
It's like, it's now that you mentioned that, like how he's come so close so many times. It's like it was what Sami Zayn versus Neville, versus back when he was Adrian Neville still in NXT, right?
Yeah,
that like Sami could never beat Neville just because Neville was willing to do anything it took, and always would come out the end. And so when he finally got it at the end, like it meant so much. It'll be like that here. I think when they have the rubber match here at the end, when I'm sure Gargano's going to go over Ciampa when they finally finish this feud, or if he ever does end up getting like the champion, the belt or anything like that, like it's going to be one of those that I think is going to mean so much more because of all the hardship that led up to it. I think it'll be good
for sure. I think the next big event for NXT might be NXT Takeover Brooklyn. So I don't know if that turns out to be the case. I'm going to try my best to get some tickets. You know,
dude, that would be awesome, because I think the way that they're going to push it, they're going to have them do that rubber match at the next Takeover. So I can see that. I'd like to see him like let it even stew longer, because then it's going to be like one of those like I can't let them fight already, let them do it, and they just never are able to do it or whatever. Maybe they play off the injury kind of storyline again or whatever. I'm not sure what they'll do. And one thing that I thought was hilarious, I heard someone float, I want to see now like Gargano get called up to the main roster, and then Ciampa has to like, he's fighting his way to get to the main roster to battle Gargano at that stage. I'm like, that could be kind of cool. I wouldn't mind that, but I don't know if it would go over well, just because a lot of the people, like the main roster fans, they probably wouldn't know, they wouldn't be familiar with the NXT stuff, unfortunately, because that would be an awesome way to pull off the story, like to keep the story going and to keep that feud. Like if one of them gets called up and the others, I gotta beat him, I gotta come up ahead, and so that's why they're trying so hard to get to the main roster. That could be a good story, but I don't know if they'll ever do that.
If told right, you know, like it can be, you know, but it's you know, the format of the weekly shows for Raw and SmackDown it's so different from like NXT, you know, like NXT with their taping schedule and how they stretch things out, like it's just a different type of flavor than what you get on the main roster. Like, and I think that's probably why some of these characters don't translate once they do do get moved up to Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's absolutely right. It is too bad because you get some people, you get like Bo Dallas, who was champion for in NXT for how long, and then and unfortunately it took until now before he kind of got that push again with the B Squad, which I think is hilarious that that's what it took to get him to kind of back into to winning again when he was such a huge champion for forever, and then even someone like Neville was NXT champ for forever, and then kind of it was cool at first for a little while, and then they've got put him into 205 Live, and he's able to revitalize that for a bit, and then done, and then that's it, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was I think a good move for Neville because he was floundering on the main roster. You know, the quick initial push, but he wasn't, you know, moving the needle or doing anything like of importance. And when they finally turned him heel and gave him that microphone on 205 Live with the whole King of the Cruiserweights thing,
yeah, I thought it was great.
He was on fire. I'm like, and he didn't even need to be pigeonholed to that division. I'm like, this guy could be like a force, like on Raw or SmackDown. Like, give this guy a push. Like, I understand he's not the biggest guy, but body wise and his skill set in the ring, and then seeing how great he came across on the microphone with that villain character, I was just like, Jesus, like take the cuffs off this dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, where was this guy all this time? And unfortunately,
absolutely.
you know, like now he's on the sidelines, I guess, over you know, dispute over like his push or unhappiness with how.
Well, I think ultimately he just got fed up once they gave Enzo the belt over him. Like, I think, and I'd be upset too if I was Neville and lost to Enzo just because Enzo's popular. That would make me mad because I was hoping if I would have loved to have seen Neville versus crap. He's like was my favorite wrestler. Now suddenly I lost it. The dude who was always eating the banana.
Austin Aries.
Yeah. Austin Aries. I love Austin Aries, despite the fact that I forgot his name. And another one that I've loved from Generation Next to his time in TNA and all that. I would have loved to have seen a feud between those two. It would have been amazing. And then imagine if they were still in it, and then you bring like Ricochet up and then have him in the mix with them too. They would have had incredible matches. Or you could even just do the TNA X Division stuff again. So you have them, and then AJ Styles in there and all that kind of stuff. Like, it would have been just an amazing spotlight on wrestling ability. Unfortunately, that's not where things have gone.
Yeah, and it sucks. It sucks because if Aries still, you know, kind of would have stuck it out and stayed, and with Neville like still being there, and then now getting guys like Ricochet and Leo Rush, who's going to be debuting soon. Like,
yeah, dude, you love you some Leo Rush. I like it too. So I'm glad that he's getting his push. I was worried when there was all that backstage heat on him. Yeah, because he's a young dude also, and just did something. I can see it not being like he's just making a joke, an in character joke as well, a kayfabe joke, but unfortunately just taken totally the wrong way.
Yeah.
And so it was in poorly received, and I can see why it would have been, because it was like at an unfortunate time. But like, I'm glad he's getting this push,
and I'm glad that they're kind of giving him the mic too. Like, I never really saw like this type of character, and I've seen him wrestle like here locally, like in a couple of like local independents. So like I knew what he was all about before. So, and I heard the rumors like that he was gonna be signed with NXT and stuff like that, and when he was finishing up his indie dates. You know, I've seen him a couple of times here in person. You know, my nephews were able to take a picture with him. Real cool cat. But his in-ring ability was like incredible. Like, he was definitely like one of the best on these shows that I was watching. And you know, he had his little run in Ring of Honor as well. You know, so it was just nice to see like, okay, man, for being such a young guy, you know, he's on the WWE radar, and now he's gonna get a chance. And you know, unfortunately that tweet kind of derailed them for a bit, but now with promos on 205 Live, it looks like he's basically skipping over NXT and is just going to debut straight into that division, which I think is going to be a good thing, because if he's playing this cocky, arrogant character that they're showing in the vignettes, I think that's what 205 Live needs, because it's all about the wrestling, which is good, but you do kind of need that character element in there as well. And
yeah, and I think that is, unfortunately, this could be another show in its own. Yeah. So what can they do to save 205 Live, or why isn't it working? But I think it is that. I think that the character work isn't strong enough in 205 Live. I think they were going the right way with Neville, and I think he could have really done a lot to help kind of push that. But like, they just don't have enough good characters. I think the heels that they have in 205 Live aren't good enough, or they're not good enough at being heels. Yeah. So like your Arya Davari and all that. Like he's fine, but it's nothing special. It's nothing that you haven't seen before. And
Exactly.
like I think Drew Gulak is great. I think he's hilarious. I loved him more when he was doing all his PowerPoint presentations. I thought it was just so funny. But I think so. So you bring Leo Rush in for something like this, and I think it'll be a good injection of character into it, and I think that's what they need. Though I'm not sure if that's what they need, because this is the stuff that I love. Like I love these kind of wrestling, but and even I'm like I'm not gonna watch it this week, or even, yeah, I don't really need to even see the highlights of it this week because it'll be they have the same matchups all the
It's the same
time.
thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. So that's what they need to do. I feel like to differentiate. Like
Yeah,
I like the in-ring stuff, but you have to add that little bit of flair to it, and they kind of were doing it, before Enzo got let go. They were kind of trying to do it, but they gotta kind of put more of a spotlight on those guys. And I think the positioning of that show also is wrong.
yeah,
Them doing it after the SmackDown tapings where the crowd, after they've seen guys like AJ Styles and everybody that's in the main event there, Shinsuke Nakamura and guys like that, how excited can you expect the crowd to get for these
yeah.
cruiserweights that they don't spend enough time developing,
Yeah,
so
exactly. And I think that's almost to the detriment of 205 Live is how good some of the guys they have on in the main event on SmackDown now. Like now that you get an AJ Styles versus Nakamura, like you get that level of wrestling now. Like if you were to have like your Raw main eventers, or your like let's say like your Cena versus Orton, or your Reigns versus Jinder now, or something like that, where you don't get that level of wrestling, and that's your main event at one of the shows, and then you have the cruiserweights go. I can see that being a much more exciting injection of adrenaline again. But when you have an awesome match that AJ has just put on, or something like that, and those are the characters the wrestlers that you love and you're there to see, it's just not as cool anymore. And so
Exactly.
maybe putting it in the hour before SmackDown might be a better thing to do. I'm not sure.
That's what they should do. Like, and even I know it's called 205 Live, but that doesn't mean it has to be like live,
Agreed.
like
I totally agree. I think
yeah.
that actually is also to the detriment of the show and to those guys, is that they're making them do it live. I think it would have been better taped for sure, and they could put it on at a different time, and it'd be cool because the crowd is not as into it,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I would say, yep, tape it before SmackDown, like the way they used to do superstars and main event.
Yep.
Use them to warm the crowd up, and you'll have a more lively crowd for those matches. And again, the style that these cruiserweights are working, it's not like it was back in the day, like when you didn't see the main roster guys doing stuff like that. Like the main roster guys are doing that type of match. You're seeing guys like Rollins and AJ, and almost every single match that you see on Raw and SmackDown, guys are doing suicide dives and moves off the top rope and stuff like that. So so when the cruiserweights are doing it, it's not really as special anymore.
Yeah.
So to put them on after those main event guys, it's doing them a disservice for sure. So we could probably go on and on and on about that for sure. But we could wrap this up, and of course we'll continue to talk. Thanks for popping on for the NXT breakdown. Hope you really enjoyed the show. I give this show a 2 thumbs up. NXT never seems to disappoint me when they put on their pay-per-views, especially compared to the main roster shows. I could definitely, some of those are wind up being hit or miss for me, depending on the matches and stuff, but NXT always just seems to deliver with their shows. So
I think like the main roster pay-per-views, there's a lot of bloat in those, unfortunately. And with this, like it was only 5 matches in this pay-per-view, but they were all solid matches, and you didn't even see Adam Cole like really wrestling. You didn't see Cassius Ohno. There's a lot of talented dudes that they did not even have at that wrestling today, and yet it was still a great show. And just goes, they don't mind not using all of their roster like all at the same time, which is cool. Like there was no EC3, who I'm sure is going to get a huge push and all that kind of stuff. Like there's plenty of big names and big talent that they just didn't use here, because they'll use them another time, which is smart. I think
is smart. Yeah, it is. I agree. It just shows you how deep the NXT roster is at the moment.
For sure.
And it's good to see that, because it's just going to help with the expansion of the brand. Like, Triple H is pushing that it is a global brand and not just developmental. It's developmental, but it's growing into that third brand of the WWE. And maybe one day you'll see them kind of like on that same level of as Raw and SmackDown, where you won't consider guys moving to Raw and SmackDown as moving up. They'll just be moving over, basically.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so interesting. It'll be interesting to see. But solid pay-per-view tonight. Definitely looking forward to the next one. And this was fun, man. This was awesome.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you giving me the call. And anytime you want to, like, as we've already deviated a bunch of times, we can talk about this stuff for hours. So if you decide to do another show like this, I'm all in.
Oh, for sure, man. For sure. I'll definitely hit you up so we could get that planned. Before we head out, why don't you let the people out there know where they can find you on social media?
I'm usually fairly active in the Facebook groups. Paul Chu. I'm always in the ROC Facebook page. If you check out RumbleCollectors.com, I'm kind of managing the blog, even though we haven't had much activity recently, and that's partially shame on me as well. But just had a baby, so that's taken kind of the back burner for the stuff that I was planning on writing up for it there. I'm also on the Building Up to It podcast, as HarikenBx had mentioned earlier. It's a Lego podcast that is part of the Cool Table Network on the Bricks on the Dollar YouTube channel. So it's me, Bricks or Clutch, and Iron Claw. We love to talk Lego. So if you are a fan of Lego and Lego related items, feel free to check us out there. The show goes up on YouTube on Fridays and also available on all of your audio formats as well.
Awesome. And thank you once again for joining me tonight. You know, I'm sure we're going to do this again. This was a lot of fun. And you have an open invite to be on the show whenever you'd like. So we'll definitely coordinate and get you back on here real soon.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right, man. See you soon. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. I had a dope time hanging out with Paul C, discussing all things wrestling. Hope to have him back here real soon on the podcast. As I said, he's always welcome back, as well as anybody that's listening, anybody that's a friend, anybody that wants to be on. You're always welcome to be on and have a conversation here with me on Verbally Challenged. All right. I was hoping to have Tron Viper and Pinkerton on to break down the WWE Money in the Bank pay-per-view, but I had some unexpected company, so I was unable to do so. However, I will break down some real quick results for you. WWE Money in the Bank also took place from the Allstate Arena from Chicago, Illinois on June 17th. It was a co-branded pay-per-view. Both Raw and SmackDown superstars were competing. There was a 1-hour kickoff show highlighting all the various feuds and stuff leading into the pay-per-view. They did have a match on the kickoff. It was for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. The Bludgeon Brothers, who are the champions, defeated the team of Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. Really not much to speak of there. The club is being pretty much wasted. They're capable of so much more. And the Bludgeon Brothers, you know who they are, the Wyatt family. You know what to expect from them too. Very physical, hard-hitting tag team. I've lost interest in the SmackDown Tag Team Championship scene since the Usos lost the belts. They were the ones that were putting out some real good quality matches. Moving on to the main card of the pay-per-view, the show opened with Daniel Bryan defeating Big Cass. Storyline being, Cass being the 7-foot-tall bully over Daniel Bryan, the shorter guy. And this was a much better match than they had at Backlash last month. Big Cass got in a bunch of offense, but Daniel Bryan prevailed here. Pretty decent opener for the pay-per-view. The next match up was Sami Zayn versus Bobby Lashley, and this match was nothing to speak of. Completely boring. The crowd was dead. Nobody gives a fuck about Bobby Lashley since he's come back to WWE. Like I said, not much to speak of here. Bobby Lashley defeated Sami Zayn. Big whoop. All right. Next match up was the Intercontinental Championship match. The champion Seth Rollins versus Elias. Elias started his usual promo in the middle of the ring, about to sing a song to the Chicago crowd, and decided against it, said the crowd wasn't worth it. Out comes Seth Rollins, and they had a fantastic matchup. Crowd was really into it. A lot of, a couple of false finishes there, a couple of points where it looked like Elias could have beat Seth Rollins, but Seth Rollins came through with the roll up for the victory while holding on to the tights. And they did make a big deal to say that. So maybe Elias will be getting a rematch in the future. So they got to keep pushing this dude, man. I think Elias maybe should have came out with the belt here. Seth Rollins doesn't really need it, but they're in the midst of rebuilding Seth Rollins, so to speak. He pulls out the victory here. Good match. There was a promo for the next pay-per-view, which is apparently going to be Extreme Rules. So hopefully Tron Viper and Pinkerton will be on board to discuss that one. Totally my fault. All right, moving on. Was the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Ember Moon, Natalya, and Naomi and Lana all competing for the Money in the Bank briefcase. Alexa Bliss pulled out the victory here. Really good match. The women pulled off a bunch of great spots, a lot of sick looking bumps from the females here. And kudos to that, man. They did a really good job. Alexa Bliss pulled out the victory, climbing up the ladder and grabbing the briefcase. And that wouldn't be the last you see of Alexa Bliss tonight. Just foreshadowing there. Next up was Roman Reigns versus Jinder Mahal. Another throwaway match here. The crowd just does not give a shit about Jinder Mahal, and they don't really like Roman Reigns either. This was Chicago again, being a smart crowd, as me and Paul discussed on the NXT breakdown. They were just chanting all types of things throughout the matchup. They just were not into the matchup. It looked like they kind of got into it towards the end as it picked up steam, but I mean, they were just chanting so many other things besides focusing on what was going on in the ring. And there was even a wave at one point during the match, so that was pretty funny. The outcome was as you would expect. Roman Reigns defeated Jinder Mahal with a spear. Nothing to speak of there, guys. All right. Next match up was for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Carmella, the champion, versus Asuka. Everybody maybe expected Carmella to lose here. Carmella's kind of like this champion that just kind of seems to be winning matches through the skin of her teeth. You know, she's been aggressive in some matches, and actually here she controlled a good bit of the match against Asuka. Surprisingly, she doesn't look too bad in the ring. She's actually improved a whole lot. You know, I expected Asuka to take the victory here, but there was a swerve at the end of the match. A masked character dressed up in Asuka's garb came up on the ring apron, distracted her. She almost lost to a roll up. She was able to evade the roll up, but she was once again distracted by the figure. The figure took off the mask and wound up being James Ellsworth, and it allowed Carmella to hit a kick to Asuka's head and get the 1-2-3 to retain the SmackDown Women's Championship. So surprising outcome there. And it looks like James Ellsworth is back in WWE. All right. Next match up was for the WWE Championship. It was a last man standing match between champion AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. This has been, I believe, their fourth match on pay-per-view over the last few months. Their first match was at WrestleMania. AJ retained the title there, but that included the Shinsuke Nakamura heel turn, thus leading into this feud. They had another match at Greatest Royal Rumble that did not have a winner. And they also had a match at Backlash, which I believe the match was inconclusive. Shinsuke won, a number one contenders match on SmackDown to allow him to pick a stipulation. And he chose last man standing for this encounter. This match was brutal, good back and forth, lots of good spots here. I think this was the match everybody was expecting from the beginning. Once we heard AJ and Shinsuke Nakamura were going to go at it at WrestleMania. But of course, if that match was going to be the first of many, you can't give them everything you got in that first match. A lot of people weren't really too happy with the match at WrestleMania. I don't think it lived up to those dream match expectations, but you can't give them everything you got in the first match of a feud. So they pulled out all the stops here. Tons of points in the match where you felt like either guy could have won. Both men getting to their feet at the very nick of time. I mean, just very brutal match. AJ Styles wound up retaining here with a phenomenal forearm from the ring to the outside on Nakamura through a table. Just fucking phenomenal. AJ definitely lives up to his name, and he retains the WWE Championship here. Looking forward to where he goes next. Hope to see him in a feud with Samoa Joe. You know, relive those TNA rivalry days. That'll be pretty dope. All right, guys, next match up was for the Raw Women's Championship. Ronda Rousey in her very first singles match in WWE against the champion Nia Jax. Nia Jax challenged Ronda Rousey to this match, challenging her to see if she had what it takes to win the championship. Now, Ronda hadn't had a singles match on television before. She debuted at WrestleMania in a tag match, which of course is going to be heavily scripted and choreographed. And I'm sure the same was done here, but she doesn't look bad in the ring. It was very entertaining. Crowd was into it. They were behind Ronda. It wasn't like a squash or anything like that. She got in some offense. Nia Jax got in plenty of offense as well. There were plenty of points where you felt like Nia Jax maybe could have won and beat her. So, interesting to see, because I thought they'd probably play Ronda Rousey like a Brock Lesnar and probably, take these women out in, a minute, 2 minutes. So glad to see that they're not going that route and that we're going to be seeing Ronda Rousey in more technical matchups. So I thought she did a good job here. She looked like she was going to lock in the victory when she locked in the arm bar. And right before she locked it in fully, Alexa Bliss came out with her Money in the Bank briefcase that she had won earlier in the night and hit Ronda, causing her to fall out of the ring. She threw her into the ring post. Out goes Ronda. She continued to attack Nia Jax with the briefcase, cashed it in, and hit her DDT and Twisted Bliss off the top rope to win her 5th women's championship. So nice surprise. Didn't expect that. Expected Alexa to carry that briefcase for a while, just as all the Money in the Bank winners do. And that was a nice surprise just to see her cash in and interrupt this title match. And so hopefully we'll see a feud now with Ronda and Alexa Bliss, and maybe Nia Jax will still be in the mix. So we'll see what happens there. That takes us to our main event, the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. It's Braun Strowman, Finn Balor, The Miz, Rusev, Kevin Owens, Bobby Roode, Samoa Joe, and Kofi Kingston wound up being the member of the New Day that joined the matchup after them making us wait until the very last minute. Kofi's been in the match plenty of times before, and he's got incredible athleticism, so it only makes sense that he be in the matchup. Again, just like the women did, all these men put in a great effort and lots of crazy spots. Everybody usually gets their chance to shine during these matchups. It wound up being the monster among men, Braun Strowman, that wound up climbing that ladder and grabbing the briefcase and winning the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Braun Strowman's getting the monster push, pun intended. It was kind of like easy prediction to see that he would come out of this winning the briefcase, and now they were hyping the fact that he has a chance to cash in on Brock Lesnar anytime he wants, but Brock Lesnar is never there, so good luck with that, Braun. It looks like it's definitely going to be Braun Strowman who's probably going to be taking the Universal title off Brock Lesnar's hands in the very near future. So that's going to be interesting to see. Braun Strowman is improving every week, so it's going to be interesting to see the journey from here on out. All right, guys, those are the quick WWE Money in the Bank 2018 results. Wish I could have gotten a little bit more in depth with you guys with Tron Viper and Pinkerton, but next time for Extreme Rules, definitely we'll be doing that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And thanks again to Paul C for joining me for the NXT Takeover Chicago breakdown. That was a lot of fun. And like I said before, hoping to have him back in another month also for these breakdowns and to talk about wrestling. He's a very knowledgeable guy. Looks like it was a surprise talking to him because it seemed he knew a lot of matches and a lot of instances that I remember and stuff like that. So we have similar sensibilities as far as this sport. So it's nice to talk to a fellow fan like that. So all right, guys, I think that's gonna wrap us up. I think that's gonna be the podcast. Before we head out, some quick shout outs. Remember to check out realmofcollectors.com. We're on Facebook as a group, Realm of Collectors, and we're on Instagram at Realm of Collectors. Please pull up a chair to the Cool Table. It's a hub for like-minded podcasts, including Enter the Realm and Breaking the Mold, Mondays and Tuesdays, respectively, on the Realm of Collectors YouTube channel. The only show to watch on Saturday nights, Plastic Fanatics, the late night aftercast, on Victory Saber 77's YouTube channel. Those 3 shows are also available in audio format on iTunes and Google Play. The rest of the shows on the Cool Table are Shattercast Uncut, Nerd Rage Radio, Toy Detox, Stasis Lock, Building Up to It, Fresh Communication, Beer and Bolters 40K, and 8 Weeks. You can find the Cool Table on Facebook along with links to all these other great podcasts. All right, guys, that's it. That's the episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the download. I really, really appreciate it. We'll be back soon, real soon with the next episode. All right. So please take care, stay safe, and peace out.